Welcome to Bridging the Gap. My name's Briston Lowry, and I've practiced Jujutsu both as a traditional martial art and a combat sport for well over 20 years. I was introduced to the art in the Army and never looked back. I've had many amazing instructors along the way, highly skilled in respective arts. In this series, it is my goal to bridge the gap between Jujutsu as a traditional martial art and Jujutsu as practiced as a combat sport. In the final episode of Bridging the Gap, we will be discussing the training differences between Classical Jujutsu and combat sport expressions of Jujutsu. Starting with combat sports, I'll state the obvious. Training is geared towards winning an athletic achievement. Their training will reflect their goals. The result of this style of training is high development in a personalized set of skills that complement the athlete's attributes. Due to consistent resistance training and multiple competitions, sport jujutsukas are acutely aware of what their strengths are and what their limitations are as well. This type of self-awareness leads to good strategies that allow them to win in a competition against opponents who are offering tremendous resistance. In contrast, classical jujutsu schools typically teach a catalog of techniques. Once the student has reached adequate proficiency in that catalog of techniques, they are permitted to learn the next catalog. Most classical jujutsu schools do very little randori. I was lucky. My first traditional jujutsu instructor, Sensei Ron Thomas, was different. We did randori at the end of every practice. I remember the first class I observed of his. His students were working on their grand amplitude throws. Some students were working on wrist locks, and towards the end of class, they put gloves on. They would throw one another, and once they were on the ground, they would begin hitting each other, forcing each other to cover and seek dominant positional control. I was very impressed with what I saw, and I signed up. I found that my training with Sensei Ron complemented my training at sport jujutsu dojos. Where I might have had a Newaza advantage at Sensei Ron's, when I went to my sport jujutsu dojos, I had a tremendous advantage on my feet. Sensei Ron's training kept me in the real world. It kept me from going too far down the rabbit hole into sport movements that have little to no validity when your opponent is allowed to slam you or punch you in the face. Because of this, I found myself gravitating towards other instructors on the combat sports side of things. I found instructors such as Professor Mike Lindmeyer and Professor Tim Cartmill. Both of these professors were old school in their application. They were still true to the original intent of Jujutsu. And there I was, straddling the line, with one foot in the combat sports side of things, and the other in the self-defense oriented arts of Jujutsu. I find many more technical similarities between the two than differences. Mostly I only see strategic differences. But because I have one foot on both sides of that line, I was able to develop combat sports strategies that would reflect my self-defense strategies as well. And oddly enough, it's the old school, get on top, stay on top mentality. Using that strategy in self-defense, I'm always able to get back up to my feet. With that combat strategy and combat sport, I'm always able to maintain dominant control. I've cross-trained and cross-pollinated, and the result is my mongrel jujitsu, and I'm very happy that I've done so. And all this time, the biggest thing that I've learned is that the key element is resistance training, while keeping the street in mind. I hope you all have enjoyed these episodes, and if you are a combat sport jujitsuka, that you start training a little more self-defense. And if you are a classical jujutsuka, you start practicing a little bit more randori. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all for watching.